Everyone, it's Emily Fox. Today's video is going to be all about my big book reading challenge. So basically, this is my second year trying to commit to reading one big book a month, aka a book that has more than 500 pages. Last year, it went actually pretty decently, and this year, my goal was the same, to try and read 10 out of the 12 months, that I would give myself a challenge for. And I failed majorly. I do have excuses like getting major surgery and then moving, but at the end of the day, those are excuses. But I still wanted to do a end of the year wrap up, letting you know what I thought about all of them. Were they worth the investment? Because obviously if they are bigger, there's more to them. It takes more time to read them, and some of them are not necessarily worth the extra pages. I understand it's a little bit extra, but it's just all for fun. So I wanted to go back to all of them, giving you a quick review and just letting you know the best and the worst ones. So out of the 12 original books, I only finished 7. And one of them I am in the middle of, but I'm still posting the video now because I know I will not have time to finish it before the end of the month, the end of the year. So yeah, it would have been my 8th one, but life. But basically, I was doing this challenge because I wanted to try and commit to reading bigger books more regularly, simply because part of me is kind of intimidated. I know some people are like, oh, the bigger the book, the better. But I found myself, whenever I started book 2, kind of avoiding them because you could read 2-3 books by the time you read one, and it's just so silly. And I didn't want to be intimidated by them anymore, so that's why I tried to commit to one every month. I might have not done so well with the challenge per se, but I believe I read about 20 big books this year, so it's not too bad. Just because I didn't end up reading the ones that I had planned doesn't mean that I didn't read any. So I still think I conquered my fear of big books, even though I failed the challenge. You know what? Let's go in order of the ones that I did read. So in January, we picked up, because some of you did attempt to read it too, The Passage by Justin Cronin. This is a YA sci-fi kind of post-apocalyptic book, and it's an interesting premise. It has over 700 pages, so it was quite long, but honestly, I don't think it's necessarily the number of pages that made me so exhausted reading it. I literally felt like this was a whole trilogy in one book because of how many times the book kind of just twists and goes in a different direction and timeline. And it's technically a trilogy, and I didn't end up picking up the rest of the books. But we did read it in January because it was becoming a TV show, which I did also attempt to watch. I watched the first 2 episodes, I think, and it was pretty good. I felt like between the two, I would rather just have watched the TV show than read the book. In its defense, I did read quite a few post-apocalyptic books, so I feel like if you're just starting into the genre, this is very accessible and you might enjoy it more than I did, but I felt like those were concepts I have seen a lot. And actually, I read a little bit later during the year, The Girl with All the Gifts, and they were really, really similar. I think I preferred this one, but still just wanted to throw that out there. So overall, an interesting concept, a okay execution. I didn't have any issues with the writing, but it's not something that really marked me, and that will, just talking about it, I feel like there's not that much that I really want to say about it. I ended up giving it a 3.5 stars. It was an okay book, not necessarily worth so many pages in my opinion. In February, I decided to pick up a very popular French book, which is Les Fiancés d'Hiver by Christelle Labeau. It was translated, I'm not exactly sure what the name is in English, but this is a YA fantasy that came out a few years ago, and this was compared a lot to Harry Potter. I had been warned that it was not similar whatsoever, so I went into it aware of it, and I am here to confirm not even remotely similar, except that you're following a young kid, I guess, that has magical power. This is where it ends. I did think it was an interesting world building, an interesting magic system. I am planning on continuing the series. I haven't done it yet because I'm not feeling the urgency to do so. Essentially, the little girl you're following is not like the other girls, which a little bit of that vibe, not gonna lie. But she is forced to go and marry someone from a different clan just to appease everyone. And a lot of political intrigue, I guess, and I did enjoy it. It's a little bit vague, but not necessarily in a bad way. There was a little bit more romance than I'm really interested in, to be honest, especially in YA books, but I completely understand why people loved it. Personally, I think I would probably have preferred it if I had read it as a teenager. So yeah, also ended up being, I believe, a 3.5 stars. So not a bad book, just not an amazing one for me either, which I feel like compared to last year, if you've seen my wrap up, you're gonna notice that a lot of these are more meh really reviews than amazing, which is probably why I struggle to prioritize a lot of these challenges instead of the ones I was really excited about. So, you know, just throwing that little info out there. In March, we read The Secret History by Donna Tartt. I had seen this book on so many lists of best books I've ever read type of thing. This is considered, I think, literary fiction, whatever, adult. I went into it pretty blind. All I knew was that the setting was in university and that the main characters, or all the characters, weren't really likable. And I agree. I did actually listen to quite a bit of it as an audiobook. It really helped me enjoy the writing style, to be honest, but also just committing to finishing the whole thing. The characters were definitely not likable, but I thought it was really interesting. If you're someone that enjoys, again, the school setting, if you enjoy languages, I think you might be interested in reading this book. There's kind of a murder mystery in there, which was not something I expected. I don't think I had heard anyone mention this. And actually, I enjoyed the writing style enough that I did pick up also The Goldfinch by the same author recently, actually. Also, it was becoming a movie, which is probably why, you know, it forced me to read it ASAP. And between the two, I much preferred The Secret History. So if you're wondering my opinion, I would say commit to this one instead of the other one. I think it's a little bit shorter too. It has just over 600 pages, so not too bad. Also something that didn't end up becoming an all-time favorite for me. So again, another kind of meh book for me, not something that you're gonna see me talk about, rave about in like a list of best of, but still I'm happy I read it, just because now I can kind of talk about it because everyone raves about it and I can just be like, meh. But seriously, not a bad book, not a favorite. Still have to wait for the best and worst in this series. So in April, we picked up from the jar, because really I didn't really choose, this one, which was Life After Life by Kate Atkinson. One of the things I had a huge kick on last year was reading books about someone that relives their lives over and over again, or their day. Just a concept that I really enjoy in books and movies. If you have any recommendation, I've probably read it or watched it, but I'm definitely open to any more recommendations. And this one I find was a little bit different, although I always find that they have a little something different. This one is more historical fiction with that sci-fi twist. The main character you're following was born in 1910, yup, and she relives her life over and over again, so you can see her being affected by both world wars. I don't want to say too much because obviously it's an interesting concept and it's better, in my opinion, to go into it pretty blind, but I will definitely be including this whenever I do a video about, you know, my favorite books with that concept. I do think that this might be more suited to people that enjoy more like literary fiction and historical fiction, compared to, I feel like a lot of the other ones that I've read are more like action-packed, more like thriller, intense sci-fi ones than this one really. So yes, I really enjoy that one for sure. I believe I ended up giving it a 4 stars, so pretty good, but not the best one here. May is where things started not going well for me, but it's also the month I ended up having a double jaw surgery, so it makes sense. I did end up finishing this book technically in June, but it was our May pick, which was Dune. I had been dying to read this book for the longest time because it's a hard sci-fi. It's an incredibly popular one, and it had been on my list of like books I looked forward to forever. Sometimes I find myself worrying about reading these books because what if I don't like them? What if I don't find them worth the hype? And I disappoint everyone by hating on them, and this was the case with this one because man, did I not enjoy it. You're gonna see it, spoiler alert, in my worst books of 2019 because this was terrible to me. This is on so many people's favorite list. You see it everywhere. The comment section on my Goodreads review show that a lot of people get very personal and angry over anyone that has different feelings on it. Long story short for this video, I had a lot of issues with some of the choices really made in the writing style or just even the story. I understand that, you know, the world building was definitely the thing a lot of people enjoyed. I didn't really care for it. I had a lot of issues with time spent on different things, like really big events ended up happening in like 2 weeks, and then other stuff ended up being pages and pages of descriptions that I didn't really care about. And I found myself pretty bored, and I did have to finish it as an audiobook because, again, I don't think I would have been able to go through the whole thing without this. So this is, I believe, the worst book in this video, which again, I understand will enjoy it. Feel free to rave about it in the comment section. And I will go in more details again in my worst of the year, but not something I thought was worth all the pages. And I know it has been a series for a while, but I'm not planning on picking up anything else from that series, even though I have this gorgeous edition, which makes me feel even worse about hating it so much. But yes, I really, really did not care for this book. So the worst one. Good news for me is that the next book I did end up picking up, because it took me a while, is my favorite one in this video. So I got the worst and then the best one all in a row. Towards the end of summer, I ended up finishing this book, which is A Little Life. And I had been warned that I would feel very sad about the whole thing, and I did. I don't cry easily while reading books, and I totally did. It is the incredibly sad story following 4 friends that meet in university, and you just see basically their lives and how they connect. You kind of have some information about their past slowly, and you trigger warning for literally everything you can think of. All I'm gonna say is that the last 100 pages took me like a week to read, because every time I would read 10 pages, I would have to put the book down because I could feel the tears coming up, and I was like, there's no way I can do this. I was also introduced to one of my favorite characters of all time, which is Willem. Yep. And yeah, absolutely wonderful book, absolutely worth the hype, absolutely worth every single pages, all 700 of them. And yeah, literally fiction, adult, I didn't mention this, but yes, it was just pure magic for me. Absolutely loved it, absolutely recommend it. So happy it was in this challenge, because it was also one of those books that, because of the hype, it had become a huge thing in my head, and I don't think I would have been able to pick it up if it weren't for the challenge. So I guess, you know, that's the good thing. Even though I failed, I still ended up picking up like this one and this one, even The Secret History. I don't think I would have picked them up if it weren't for this challenge. So at least, I guess I am getting better at reading my big books. So this happened. Then I failed royally and missed out on a few different books, including Seven Eves, Le Comte de Monte Cristo Part 2 that I never finished. And yeah, I did warn you that I failed at this challenge. The last one I finished, and I'm doing this because I kind of just skimmed the end because I didn't care for it, but it's not as bad as Dune, so not the worst of the worst. Nosferatu by Joe Hill. This is essentially monster in Christmas land. If you want to read something right now, you know, with Christmas, this is a popular horror book that I just really could not connect to. And I don't think it's the first time I feel like this about Stephen King and Son. I feel like sometimes I just don't really care with where the story's going. It's so vague, to be honest. There's a lot of like, you know, children, monster, Christmas land, and just, I really found myself quite confused. I did try to finish it as an audiobook too. You might have noticed sometimes when I feel like I can't commit to the book, I'd go with the audiobook just because I don't really have to focus 100%. If I find myself not really caring, it just helps me finish it. Couldn't even do that. And honestly, I don't have much to say about it except that I didn't really care for it. So was it worth all the pages? Almost 700 pages. I don't know. Didn't really finish it, I guess. As for now, I am currently reading Little Women, which is becoming a movie on Christmas, or like for the 50th time, really. I have never read the book, never watched any of the movies, so I am excited to go through it. I had been warned that it was kind of more religious maybe than what I'm used to, but again, I have been warned. I'm still excited about it because so many people are so attached to the book and the movies, and I just want to, you know, get to know the sisters, get to know the world. That one definitely doesn't count. I just wanted to throw out there that I'm currently reading it. So as you can see, I feel like this challenge was a complete fail. I will be announcing soon my reading challenges for next year, which I feel like we can kind of guess what's going to happen with this one. So overall, like I had mentioned in the beginning, my goal was definitely to try and get over my fear of big books, which not really a big fear, but still something I had noticed. And I feel like I said by reading 20-ish this year, I am doing just fine. I will attempt to not put too much pressure on myself next year to see what happens. But I do want to say that even though things didn't really go as planned, and you know, I mentioned my excuses, I'm still happy I did it just because I got to read some books that I ended up really enjoying and some that I didn't, but at least now I know. The best book award goes to A Little Life. Easily 5 stars, loved it, can't recommend this enough. Again, trigger warnings though, but absolutely amazing. I don't cry easily once again, and I totally did. And again, one of my favorite characters of all time is in there, and it's definitely torture porn, but enjoyed every minute of it. The writing is just special mention to Life After Life because really interesting twist on one of my favorite premises. Worst / most disappointing, Dune, which again, I really thought I was going to love this, and I really did not. And you know what? Just to laugh at myself, a book that I am sad I did not read, I'm gonna name 2. Obviously, Le Comte de Monte Cristo Part 2, because at this point it's a running joke that I need to finish this. Technically 1 book, but my edition was like 700 pages, so I need to finish this. It's a French classic. I did really like the first part, which is like the most ridiculous part here, and I just really need to finish it. So maybe 2020 will be our year. And I also wanted to mention Seven Eves because it's a hard sci-fi and it starts with the moon exploding, which of course I want to read this. I would also love to hear your opinion on big books. Do you just love them and don't understand why I am doing this series? Which I know some of you feel this way. Are you also scared of them? Do you need to give yourself little challenges like this one to go through them? Am I alone here? I hope you did still enjoy this series even though it really didn't go as planned. Hopefully you did. Thumbs up, subscribe, more videos on the screen because my end of the year series is coming up like any minute now, and I'm so excited to start to go in details about the best, the worst, most surprising, most disappointing books that I've read in 2019, and I shall see you soon. Bye.